You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Athan Hristodulu.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Athan Hristodulu, and today we are doing the very first top 10 video on the channel. I'm going to come out and say this right away. This was probably by far the most difficult video I have put together so far. We've been doing power ranking videos. I've done, live shows, prepping, an entire 30, 45-minute show, draft grades, draft breakdowns, previews, things like that. We have done all kinds of things on the channel, and I'll tell you right now, this is by far the hardest. I've put a lot of time into the research and just trying to organize this top 10, and today we are doing a top 10 receiving duos conversation. So let's dive right into it and get started, shall we? So first off, in the top 10, now for you guys to understand how I'm putting this together, things that are factors, and I have it written down here because there's a few different things that helped me decide what I was doing. The biggest thing was most recent statistics from this past season. So the stats they put up from this past year have a lot of weight in the conversation. Another piece that has a lot of weight is the consistency as a player, both individually and as a duo. Some of the people on this list are going to be teammates that are being united for the first time this season. So, there's conversation as to just how dynamic and formidable of a duo are they actually going to be going into this year. They could be great players on opposite teams, but then you put them together and, there might be a power struggle. They might not actually be that great as a tandem, even though everyone expected them to be. So that's another thing that's on there. There's a little bit of kind of like my season projection thrown into this as well, where I kind of expect these receiving duos, not wide receiver, receiving duos are going to be. And also just like the surrounding cast is something I took into consideration as well, just based off of, how many other players on the team could potentially eat up yardage from them, that could eat up touchdowns from them, whether the team runs more than passes, things like that. So there's a lot that really went into me deciding this all. It's a very well thought out video. So if you enjoy it, like, comment, share. I'm sure you are going to have things to say based off this ranking. So fire off in the comment section below. Now, with number 10, to start off the list, and I'm kind of nervous to do this, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I cannot wait to see the criticism that I get for doing this and putting it all together. Number 10 is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I have Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, let me just rattle off their stats from last season. This is combined numbers between the two wide receivers. Now, 159 catches, 1,704 yards, 18 touchdowns. They had 89 first downs and a catch percentage of 66.35. Now, this is combined, so averaging their catch percentage, that's like targets based off of catches, like off the targets they received, how many times a player, accrued a first down for the team, which I feel like is a slightly underrated statistic, but is very important. How important can they be, especially on like those third downs? The reason I have them ranked as low as I do is because when I was putting this together, and there's another team on this list that I came into the same issue with, was I had a hard time for the Steelers picking a duo to go with, because there's realistically 3 people on that team that you could pair and consider like a dominant duo. But I feel like Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool are probably going to be the figureheads of the receiving core in this season. Whether Smith-Schuster stays there going forward beyond the season, obviously, is a question that'll be answered. But I felt like this is a good spot for the both of them. Could you argue they might be a little bit higher? Maybe, but I think based off the numbers as we go through and just past production, Juju Smith-Schuster has been a piece of that offense for a handful of years now. Chase Claypool is up and coming as a wide receiver. This is a dominant duo, and I think it's going to continue on going forward. Now, at the number 9 spot, again, another team that runs into the same issue. I have the Dallas Cowboys with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So, again, Michael Gallup is another receiver on that team, and I mean, that trio of wide receivers is like a 3-headed dragon just eating up passes, but they also have Ezekiel Elliott there, somebody who is supposed to be, what people are saying, in the best shape of his career now. So whether he, ends up eating up some yards from them is something I was considering, touchdowns and things like that. We'll go over their numbers. 166 combined catches, 2,049 yards, only 10 touchdowns. This is actually the lowest number combined on the list. list. They had 100 total first downs and a catch percentage of 68.75. So formidable duo, in the top 10 discussion. You could probably put them a little bit higher as well based off just what you like in a receiver and as far as a duo goes. But obviously CeeDee Lamb, it's his first year. Amari Cooper's only been in Dallas a season now. So a lot of questions as to just how much are they going to be producing going forward. Is CeeDee Lamb going to take the next step and produce even more? Is he going to take a step back? Is Ezekiel Elliott again going to eat up some of their yards and touchdowns if he's supposed to be, coming back full force this year and be in the best shape of his life? So a lot of factors to go into. And who knows, Michael Gallup could have a stellar year and completely knock this duo apart. And maybe it's like Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, or Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Just a lot of questions and a lot of players that can eat up yards and touchdowns on that team. So this is where I feel I'm most comfortable putting them. I had a strong consideration for Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, but I really have a strong feeling CeeDee Lamb is probably the next man up and is like the number 2 guy over Michael Gallup. I could see if Dallas is going to pick between the 3 receivers, I think Michael Gallup is the odd man out. Now, going in at the number 8 spot here, I just hit the wrong thing on my screen. At the number 8 spot, I am putting the Arizona Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins, and Christian Kirk. Now, for their numbers, we have 163 receptions, 2,028 yards, 12 touchdowns, 105 first downs, and a 66.35% catch percentage. Yes, percentage. That is what I'm looking for. So this is a duo that Christian Kirk's been around in Arizona for a few years now. He's been a solid receiver. DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. I was honestly surprised when I was putting these numbers together. I would have thought they would have had more combined touchdowns, but Christian Kirk is a very good and strong number 2. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously a clear number 1. This is one of those duos that if DeAndre Hopkins has a monster season, they could very easily move up on this list. But I think more of the weight goes on DeAndre Hopkins than it does Christian Kirk, just based off their individual numbers. So I'm very comfortable putting them at the number 8 spot. 7 is maybe arguable. 6 maybe, but I think when you guys see who I have labeled ahead of them, you guys would understand why I'd put them there. But a fantastic tandem nonetheless, some really good numbers from the both of them. Now, going into the number 7 spot, and this is where like the list gets really hard. Those first 3 were pretty easy for me to decide just based off the circumstances of the players, the other people that are around them. And man, number 7 was tough. Honestly, 7 through like 4 on this list were a pain to put together. But at number 7, I have Davante Adams and Robert Tonyan of Green Bay. So let's just go over the numbers. 167 catches, 1,906 yards, the highest on the list at 29 touchdowns, 106 first downs, and an 82.65 catch percentage. Now, there's like, I think 2 numbers on here that are the best on the list, being the catch percentage and those touchdowns. Monster numbers, now a little bit inflated on Davante Adams' size. You have to take into account also who's throwing them the football, and Aaron Rodgers, obviously MVP quarterback, the consensus number 1 last year. So I would say that the load goes a little bit more over to Davante Adams than it does Robert Tonyan. Tonyan also kind of like a one-hit wonder. Is he really going to produce the same numbers? He had 11 touchdowns on his own last year, so questions on that end as well. They also have Aaron Jones, who, has been a very consistent back in Green Bay, signed that 4-year deal, so they're very committed to him, obviously, in that run game. They also have Amari Rodgers coming from Clemson, who I think Aaron Rodgers, should he be in Green Bay next year, ends up being a formidable duo. On top of that, Aaron Rodgers potentially might not even be in Green Bay, and I think if they're not, these numbers are going to get severely knocked down if he's not in there. So something to think about as well, and why I'm comfortable putting them at number 7 despite having monstrous numbers at the catch percentage and touchdown area, leading the entire list at the highest of those 2 categories. But I think at number 7, I'm pretty comfortable with putting them there. Now, going into the number 6 spot, this is probably a duo that I'm seeing put on lists in the top 5 consistently. Some people are even putting them in the top 3 consistently, and they have not even played a down together yet. And obviously, the running back is Derrick Henry as well. So I have up here Julio Jones paired with A.J. Brown. And like I said, This is a very formidable duo. Julio Jones is like a five-time All-Pro or something like that. A.J. Brown has been an up-and-coming receiver the last 2 years, and he's looking better and better each year. And I think now, having Julio Jones is a legit number one when healthy, paired up with A.J. Brown, who I think, in my opinion, is also a legit number one. Defenses are going to have a really hard time covering the both of them and also accounting for who they have in the backfield and Derrick Henry. Now, the reason I don't have them as high, obviously, Derrick Henry being the big elephant in the room here, and that's not even like an exaggeration. I think that, they are still a ground and pound team first with Derrick Henry. He's still going to get, you could argue he'd end up being the leading rusher again for this season, and he's probably going to put up, 12, 13, 14, 15 touchdowns. So I think that might eat up from their production as a duo. As far as their numbers go combined from last season, 121 catches, 1,846 yards. They have 14 touchdowns, 91 first downs, and a really good catch percentage rating at 70.5. Obviously, the numbers for this duo are a little bit lower. Julio Jones missed a lot of time last season. I think with a full season and he's healthy, these numbers could be well inflated where they're seeing, 130 plus catches, maybe somewhere around 1,900 yards, 15, 16, 17 touchdowns. The first down numbers could probably cross 100 threshold as well, and that's if the Tennessee offense really starts to air things out. So some questions there as to how it's going to boil out, but I'm very comfortable putting them at number 6, just outside that top 5 spot. Now, going in at number 5, this is a duo that is very good, but again, the numbers are skewed more to one receiver than the other. I have at number 5 the Buffalo Bills tandem of Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs. Now, the numbers on this duo are monstrous, to say the least. They have the highest receptions numbers total at 209 receptions, 2,502 yards. They have 12 total touchdowns, 126 first downs, and a second best on the list, a ludicrous 76.55 catch percentage, which means 3 out of every 4 balls thrown their way is caught combined. This is a very strong duo. A lot of the numbers do come from Stephon Diggs. He had his best year as a wide receiver last season, having Josh Allen throw to them. This is a team that I think the numbers are going to continue to be inflated. While they do have Devin Singletary and they did work on the O-line a little bit, the Buffalo Bills' biggest issue, in my opinion, going into this offseason was the running game and the pass rush, and they kind of worked on the edge rush with their rookies that they drafted, but the running game is still a question. Maybe with the O-line being fortified a little bit more, they expect to get more yardage, maybe a few more touchdowns out of the running game, but I don't really know if I'm sold on Devin Singletary anymore. I was very high on him initially. I thought he was going to be really good for Buffalo, and the offense would probably run a lot more with him. But, you saw towards the end of that season last year, especially getting into the playoffs, it was literally just, throw it onto Josh Allen's back and have him throw the football all game. So that's something that I think will inflate their numbers, but warrants them being put at the number 5 spot on this list. Going into number 4 now, where numbers start to get really crazy for the duos here. Nobody in the next 4 positions has anything less than 20 combined touchdowns. At number 4, I have the Super Bowl champion duo of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. 135 catches, 1,846 on the yards, 1,846. I don't know why I said it like that. That was weird. 20 touchdowns, 98 first downs, and an awesome catch percentage of 70.8. This is a duo that showed up and showed out last year. I think that there's so many weapons on that Tampa defense, though. And with Antonio Brown coming back, the running game with Leonard Fournette's there, these numbers could very easily change out and go to different players. I think that there's just so many weapons on that offense, and now having a whole other year collectively, one of two things is going to happen. The numbers are going to get spread out more to everybody, or the numbers are just going to inflate and get even higher. But honestly, I'm expecting the numbers to get even higher on this list. I'm going to be honest with you all. I had a tough time putting these guys at number 4. There was a moment where I was, really debating on moving them into the 3 or the 2 spot and bumping 2 and 3 down, because there's just a very strong case that they are probably one of the best receiving duos in the league. Putting them outside the top 3 was really hard for me, to be completely honest. But as far as the numbers go and the players that I have coming up after them, there's just, I felt comfortable leaving them at number 4, but it was definitely a tough one putting them at the number 4 spot. Now, going into number 3, this is, dynamic duo, and there's not really much to say. I'll say that Tyler Lockett is probably one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league, and he does not get the love he deserves, and I do not know why, but he is just so good, and obviously he's paired up with DK Metcalf, who has just kind of bursted his way into the league, had a strong rookie campaign, an even better sophomore campaign, and I think going into his third year, he's just going to only continue to improve. This is a guy that I look at when I look at Julio Jones, I look at DK Metcalf, and I'm like, this is the same thing, but he's just faster than Julio Jones was, so DK Metcalf's a freak. Lockett is a fantastic athlete, a great route runner, awesome hands, puts up numbers year in and year out, and does not, for whatever reason, get the love he deserves. 183 combined catches, 2,357 yards. That's 500 above Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, which was kind of the deciding factor into this one, on top of another number as well, being 20 touchdowns. They had 120 total first downs as a duo, and they also matched up for 70.05% in their catch completion numbers. So very strong number 3. I'm very firm in my top 3, if I'm being completely honest. I think that these top 3 duos were really good. In terms of when we go into the next one, it might kind of go against what I said was based on like how I'm organizing this list. But at number 3, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf just make too much sense. They still have Russell Wilson throwing the ball. The offensive line might be a little bit better with the addition of Gabe Jackson over there in Seattle, and they don't really have the running game they used to anymore, so they're really starting to let Russ cook, which was the whole thing last year. So, I mean, if you have Russell Wilson throwing the ball and he's putting up the numbers he has been, his entire career, I don't see why they couldn't get back to these same numbers or maybe even improve on them more if this offense is a little bit better and Russell Wilson has more time in the pocket isn't just running for his life the entire game that they're playing. Now, going into number 2, at the number 2 spot, this might go a little bit against how I organized the list, but the production was just so good. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen from Minnesota. Now, Justin Jefferson, obviously his first season, but was so dominant with 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns, and then Adam Thielen has been so good for however many years now. He has just been it's like 1A, 1B over in Minnesota. Just 2 fantastic wide receivers doing their thing. Justin Jefferson, had one of the best rookie campaigns for a wide receiver in history, and I think he's only going to go up from there. Obviously, he might see some, stronger coverage, better players on him than initially was thought to, be worth in the beginning of the season. But I think that, Justin Jefferson is just on the way up, and he's probably the next big thing in the league as far as wide receivers are concerned. 162 combined catches, 2,325 yards. And I want you to make note of why I have Jefferson and Thielen above like Lockett and Metcalf. The biggest reason here is they totaled 21 less receptions and only had 32 yards less than they did. And also 1 more touchdown at 21, 110 first downs, and a 69.45 completion percentage. The numbers for those 2 are ludicrous. They're such a good receiving duo. Minnesota is set at the wide receiver position for the next few years. I think Adam Thielen still has a lot of juice left in the tank. I know he is getting a little bit older, but I think at least another year or 2 worth of some very good production from him combined with how good Justin Jefferson's probably going to be. I kind of threw out, the fact that he's, 1-year wonder, which I knocked Robert Tonyan for, but I just think that Justin Jefferson really blossomed and showed he is a legit number 1. Tonyan, I think more having Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams as like the monster he was really opened things up for Tonyan. So that's kind of the reason why I'm giving more credence to Jefferson here in this situation, why I'd put somebody like Devontae Adams and Tonyan a lot lower, but I'd throw Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen so high up on here. It's just you cannot knock the production and how good of a receiver he looked playing on the field. Like the eye test is something you got to really look at as well. Jefferson is so good, and I'm not a Minnesota fan. I probably sound like I am the way I'm, praising Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen here, but I just think that they're such a fantastic tandem, and I would love to have either of those guys on my favorite team. I think a lot of people would want them on their favorite team as well if they had the opportunity. Now, going in at number 1, I think this is probably a consensus duo amongst everyone in the league. Again, this is a receiving duos list, not a wide receivers list, so I think they are arguably the best and top players on this list. At number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, a little anticlimactic. I think anyone could have really seen this coming once you heard receiving duos. I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves. 192 catches, the highest yardage total on this list with 2,692 yards, 26 total touchdowns, 136 first downs, so second on touchdowns on this list, first in first downs. Their catch percentage, a little bit under 70% at 68.4. I mean, there's really not much to say. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league. Tyreek Hill is one of the top wide receivers in the league. A lot of people, used to say, oh, he's just really fast. I mean, no, he's a fantastic receiver. He's a fantastic route runner, and he has the athleticism to burn anyone in the league if he gets open. We've seen what him and Patrick Mahomes do together. We've seen what Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill do. Obviously, they have him at quarterback. He's going to be bombing touchdowns and, massive throws to them for however many years they stick around. And I mean, I just don't really know who else I would have put at number one here that I think would deserve to go over them. They are just such a dynamic receiving duo. If it's not Kelce, it's Hill. And if it's not Hill, it's Kelce. And that's all I really got to say about those guys. But that is my top 10 not wide receiver. See, look at that. I almost messed that up. My top 10 receiving duos in the NFL. I would love to know what you all think in the comment section down below. I think that this list is very arguable. I'm not going to sit here and say that I would die on a hill for this list. I had a really hard time putting this list together. I cannot stress that enough. I mean, I kept adding more. Like, I initially started with just like receptions, yards, and touchdowns to see like where everyone kind of went. And there was so much like discrepancy between like, players having more catches and less yards, or less catches, more yards, or like a lot of catches and yards, but no touchdowns. So like, then I started adding the first downs in the list, then the catch percentages. And I was like, this is only making it harder. So I'm very happy with this list. I'll throw in some honorable mentions. I wanted to make sure I got these guys in as well. LA Chargers with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I think they're a phenomenal duo. And then also LA Rams, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. These are guys that I think you could fit in on those lower numbers there. I mean, both those duos have somewhere around 148 catches or more, over 1,700 yards. What is it? The LA Rams receiving duo has 9 touchdowns compared to the 13 that LA Chargers have. They're both right around the 90s or so for first down markers. The catch percentage for Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods at 72 is a really strong one. That was something that I almost snuck them into the number 10 spot and took out Chase Claypool and Smith-Schuster, which is something you could probably argue in the comments section down below. So please let me know. But that is my list. I appreciate you all for watching. If you made it through to the end, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll thank you all for watching and have a good rest of your Friday afternoon, everybody. I'll catch you later.